Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest episode of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. This is episode 236 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Nate Maxon, your host here, along with my brother Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
And we are continuing our journey this week through the PWI 500 from 1995. I don't have a lot else to talk about. I think we discussed everything else we needed to discuss before we went on the air. Oops, we probably should have recorded some of that. But anyway, no big deal.
Right.
I want to thank you all for listening. Our listenership on YouTube is not gigantic, but it continues to grow. So thank you to those of you that are migrating to YouTube or discovering us on YouTube. We appreciate you being part of the WNR podcast family. And if you're out there listening and you're not, join our group. It's the WNR Podcast Network on Facebook. Show updates. We have conversations on there. Once I have a little more time, I'm going to do another one of my tournaments on there. So anyway, fun stuff. Join us on the WNR Podcast Facebook group if you have not yet. Last week, we ended with 275. It was a wrestler named Sumito. This week, we begin with 274 in the 1995 PWI 500. It is Stan Lee. No, not the creator of Spider-Man. 6'1", 235, 6 years pro. This pretty boy is native to Charlotte, North Carolina. Takes pride in his fancy studded ring robes. With partner Eddie Golden, he held tag titles in two different promotions at the same time. Has a lot of ability, but his violent temper sometimes gets the best of him. Excelsior. I threw the Excelsior in at the end there.
No, yeah. Well, I don't know anything about this guy. Well,
there's a picture of him. He looks like every indie wrestler you've ever seen trying to do the Nature Boy gimmick.
Well, then yeah, I was trying to think if that was the guy. I remember him then. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a joke.
Yeah, he's paunchy and
he's built like Tim Horner and has like a stupid little blonde mullet.
Yes.
Yeah. He's lame.
273 is Robbie Royce, 5'8", 215, 4 years pro. He and Vance Nevada make up one of the most popular teams in Canada. The Wild Ones are currently the River City Wrestling Tag Team Champions. Great aerialist, won a singles title this year while competing for Star Promotions. Robbie Royce and Vance Nevada are names that I know from the magazines, but I don't know if I've ever seen them wrestle.
I've never seen him wrestle. I remember and I ended up finally seeing a picture of Vance Nevada. I was like, oh, okay. Not what I thought it was gonna be. Like a hairy guy with like a balding head, like balding hair. I was like, I thought this was gonna be this dude was gonna look like Scott Hall or something.
Right, nope. Like a Razor Ramon kind of character. Yeah.
Nope.
The next guy is a guy that we've seen lots of. We're both very familiar with. I think one of the guys that when you talk about Wrestling Hall of Fames, he's not in enough of them, including ours, including Dave Meltzer's. But anyway, Bob Armstrong, 5'11", 227, 28 years pro, patriarch of the Armstrong clan, has returned to wrestling to try and end Jim Cornette's career. The Bullet is competing in Smoky Mountain Wrestling along with several of his sons, serves as SMW commissioner, Marietta, Georgia native. Love the Bob Armstrong, Jim Cornette stuff in Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, I've been going back through and watching Smoky Mountain, and I just watched where he referees the cage match started with the Fantastics and the bodies, and yeah, he was like charismatic as shit, and he wouldn't look when you look at Bob Armstrong, you're not like, oh, this dude's gonna be like, hell of a talker and a worker, everything like that. He just looks like like your dad or whatever. But yeah, that dude was awesome.
Yeah, and like I said, I just don't think he gets. I don't think he's in enough. Like he hasn't gotten into enough of Hall of Fames. It's kind of weird, And I guess I don't understand, but I don't know, because I know that probably a lot of the country doesn't or hasn't seen enough of what he did down south,
Yeah, he was ending like I don't want to say ending his career, but he was kind of winding down when the boom happened, and at
And
his
like,
age, does he want to go to New York or go here or go? You know what I mean?
yeah, and like Chad always talks about, it's funny how the way Bob Armstrong turned heel was he grew a mustache and smoked cigarettes. He's like, I'm a heel now. I grew a mustache and I smoke cigarettes now. And also patriarch of a great wrestling family,
Yep. Like I said, each one of his kids got like one of his traits. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And if that makes sense, I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense or not.
Yeah. Somebody got the bell to bell skills. Somebody got the charisma. Somebody got the psychology. Not that they all didn't have those things, but like you said, they all had an abundance of one of the things that was the Bob Armstrong complete package.
Yep.
271 is Johnny Graham. 5'10", 220, 8 years pro, popular wrestler in the East Coast Independents, former ACW light heavyweight champion, is from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, inadvertently left out of last year's 500, but an outstanding technical wrestler, still feuding with Lord Zoltan. I don't know this Johnny Graham guy.
I don't know who he is either.
The next one is 270. We talked about this tag team last week, so I guess we don't have to go into it too much this week. 270 is Headhunter 1. We talked about the Headhunters when we talked about Headhunter 2 last week. So I'll just move to 269. Wahoo McDaniel. Jesus. 5'11", 250, 34 years pro. Still active in Mid-Atlantic and Southern Independence. Former U.S. champion and pro football player. Faced Dick Murdoch in the Legends match at WCW Slamboree 95 and was inducted into the WCW Hall of Fame. Is wrestling a series of matches against Dory Funk Jr. on the independent circuit. Wahoo's one of those guys that wrestled till like they took his foot. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like not every weekend, but
no.
I don't know. But tough ass human being, and he's on that same list as like guys like Harley Race and Eddie Graham and Haku, just like badass dudes.
Mm-hmm.
Harley.
One of the things that always cracks me up about him is he's one of those people that like even his home promotions where he wrestled all the time, like they could never make up their mind whether he was Wahoo McDaniel or Wahoo McDaniels. Even sometimes the Krylon would say Wahoo McDaniels. Like whoever was doing the Krylon just put whatever they thought his name was in there. It was, I don't know, it's just funny to me. Like, his name's McDaniel. It's not McDaniels, but still like 30% of the time somebody calls him Wahoo McDaniels. Wahoo McDougals. I don't know, and we're talking about Slamboree 95, so let's talk about it. Bobby Heenan, Wahoo McDaniel on the blankets.
Yeah. You might want to make fun of those Indian blankets, Bobby, but they're going to keep your body real warm.
They were nice blankets. They were good blankets.
They were nice, good blankets. And then he says he's going to wrap his dead body up in them or whatever. And back to Bobby, and Bobby's like, whoa. These are nice blankets. They're like, they had like a little one-day feud.
Yes. But it's like, wow, they're good blankets. They're nice blankets. Yeah. They don't have disease.
They'll keep your body real warm when you're wrapped in there tight, Bobby Heenan.
Wahoo McDaniel said he's going to kill you.
Wrap your body up in a blanket.
Number 268 is Butch Reed, 6'2", 265, 17 years pro. Hacksaw has been wrestling for independent promotions in Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. Teamed with Ron Simmons in WCW as Doom and went on to win the WCW World Tag Team title belts. He has also competed on the pro rodeo circuit. So I don't know. Okay, so I know, and I'm not going to say anything about him not having he did have a great career in the territories like Mid-South. And then he was like, this references, he's in Doom, which is one of my favorite tag teams of all time. He had the run in the WWF for about 2 years during the boom period. So I'm not asking the question of why wasn't Butch Reed successful, but I'm asking the question of why didn't Butch Reed succeed into later in the 90s like a lot of his other contemporaries did.
I think in the 80s he got in his own way. Like
Burn bridges.
if he burned bridges, and if he didn't like something, he'd leave or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he had what wrestling calls the demons or whatever. I just think he just got in his own way about things. So everything I've ever heard about the guy.
So he didn't have the
You know,
demons. He had the Bruiser Brody kind of approach to things.
and I think he was everything I heard of him. He was kind of, I don't know, that, but was also just kind of like irresponsible about things, and like he was supposed to win the Intercontinental Championship, and he fucking no showed.
Yeah.
You know, if the rumors are true. So like you no showed, and yeah, like you were supposed to be the Intercontinental Champion, and you didn't show up. So you know what I mean? Just
That's why
shit
the
like
Honky
that.
Tonk Man won it.
Yeah.
267 is the aforementioned Lord Zoltan, 5'11", 222, 19 years pro. This KG veteran is the current Steel City Wrestling and American Commonwealth Wrestling Junior Heavyweight Champion, managed by Notorious Norm. A veteran of many federations, his legacy continues to grow with every match. Anybody that read
this guy. Oh, sorry.
Anybody that read the magazines back in the day knew this name.
Yeah, we've talked about him so much because he's managed all these people. And
no, that was Count Grog. That was Count Grog.
Well, I know, yeah, but like Count Grog, but like, you know, Lord Zoltan's been brought up a couple times, you know.
Yeah.
He's been feuding with people, and I started reading about Count Grog. I'm like, oh, I want to do some research on Count Grog. But then it like stumbled me into Lord Zoltan, and this dude like created like the Deaf Wrestle Fest, and he's did it for like years and years and years, and it's just like it's a charity event. It's a charity wrestling event that makes money for like deaf kids. Like he's like a pillar of the community. Is Lord Zoltan. I mean, he's like a pretty cool dude, actually.
And I was just looking at the Wikipedia. He debuted in 1976, and there's
around
still
for like ever.
Well, there's still not even a retirement here, so apparently he still does the thing. You know, he's 67 years old. But yeah,
I think isn't he Danhausen's dad?
Oh yeah. I think he was the one that yeah.
He's not really Danhausen's dad, but
I thought Danhausen did do something with him at one point.
I'm sure he probably did, but it wasn't really his dad. But
Dadhausen. 266, Scotty McKeever, 6'1", 220, 3 years pro, defeated Future Shock in a tournament to become the inaugural ICW Mid-Atlantic champion in March, lost the belt to Dark Star in May. Former ICW Tag Champion with Scotty Hotbody has appeared on WCW telecasts.
Good for him.
265 is Austin Steele, 6', 233, 4 years pro, co-holder of the PWF title with Terry Austin. This bleach blonde claims to be the real Nature Boy. Of course he does. Had an excellent figure for a leg lock, aggressive style with fine flying forearm smash. Of course, in 2 more years, he's no longer the real Nature Boy. He's like Cold Stone or Cold Steel, yeah. Austin Cold Steel.
Cold Steel, yeah. Now he's bald. Asshole. Sorry, I don't even know the guy. I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, this is from 1986 to 1996. There were so many Ric Flair clones on the fucking indies. Every federation had a Ric Flair, had a Nature Boy type character.
Yeah. And then any guy that was Austin.
Yeah. After 96, 90 during the Attitude Era, yes, every promotion had its Stone Cold character.
Yeah.
Like the two characters that from the Attitude Era in WWF that indies I think copied most, honestly, were Austin and Godfather. Like every indie promotion had like a Stone Cold kind of character, and then every indie promotion had a pimp.
Yes. And then Doink, even though
Yeah,
he was
even though
irrelevant anymore.
he was just Doink. There were 400
Yeah.
Doinks. 264 Boo Bradley, 6'2", 310, 3 years pro, unleashed by Cactus Jack from former manager Tammy Sonny Fitch last winter. Feuded violently with Chris Skip Candido, winning several loser eats dog food matches. Currently wrestles in SMW, where he is very popular. And of course, he is the future Balls Mahoney.
Yes. Talented dude.
I like the Boo Bradley stuff.
Yeah. He killed his cat with the leg drop.
Yeah.
I just like I said, I thought that dude was super talented, and I unfortunately I just think with how he looked or whatever, he was never going to get a fair shake in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
by the time he would have fit in, he was already had kind of like a reputation or whatever of living the hard life. So
It was cool that he got a little run there at the end.
man,
You know,
Santa Claus.
yeah, well, yeah. But I'm talking about as Balls. It was,
Yeah.
263 is Dusty Wolf. 5'10", 238 years pro, intelligent veteran of many federations, has competed around the globe, including Puerto Rico, India, and South Africa. Also currently wrestles for the LSWA, DSWA, and several other Texas independents. Competed as Dale Wolf in the WWF. And I remember him as one of the classic nobodies from my childhood in the WWF.
And putting over Coco Beware on WWF Challenge. It was good shit.
Iceman Parsons is 262. 5'10", 245, 16 years pro. The St. Louis native is still going strong in various Deep South independents, a two-time former world-class champion, feuded with Action Jackson in some unusual stipulation matches in Global last year. That's a guy that I know I always bring it up. I always bring him up because I'm actually a big Iceman Parsons fan. He's one of my favorite things about World Class. And one of my favorite runs of a wrestler is actually as World Class is fucking dying, right? World Class is dying. It is like almost flatlining. He has that heel run. He turns on the Von Erichs, and he has that heel run as a champion, and he was a great heel champion. It didn't translate to the box office, but I got to give Iceman his flowers. I think Iceman Parsons was fucking cool. He worked the mic. He was a good wrestler. I like him.
Yeah, I got no problem with him. He's a charismatic guy, and like you said, he was. I'm not saying he was like the greatest wrestler in the world, but he was good in the ring and great on the mic, and can't say anything bad about him.
261, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. Jimmy Valiant still competes occasionally and also runs a wrestling school in rural Virginia, won the WWF World Tag Titles with Brother Johnny in 1974, feuded with manager Brandon Baxter in the USWA in 1995. The Boogie Woogie Man.
Yeah, fuck him. I think Brandon Baxter was that deaf referee or deaf
deaf manager.
Deaf manager.
We've discussed Jimmy Valiant at length on many episodes of this show, so you don't really have to get into it here. Hey, look, 260 is another guy I'm a mark for. Me and Batista, we love the Warlord. 6'5", 338, 360, 9 years pro, former WWF World Title contender, wrestles occasionally in Northeastern Independents, strong, extremely physical, may reunite with former partner the Barbarian as the Powers of Pain. I like the Warlord. When I was a kid, I thought the Warlord was cool. I liked the Powers of Pain when I was a kid. They were badass, big, badass looking motherfuckers with the devious Mr. Fuji at their side. Fucking fucking love it, man. This guy's, I don't care. People can say what they want. That guy couldn't work. Fuck you. He was impressive as fuck and scary and cool and whatever. Warlord was fucking cool.
And then, I don't care if he couldn't work or whatever. Like, how do I say it? Like, there's certain guys that, and this might sound like, I don't know, being, I don't want to say it, not hypocritical, but whatever. Like, certain guys don't have to be. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, the Warlord, I don't want to watch the Warlord have like a technical wrestling match.
Yeah.
I want to watch the Warlord have like a brooding slugfest. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like that's what I want to see.
I want to watch the
That makes
Warlord.
sense.
I want to watch the Warlord do one of two things. I want him to be in a big man muscle battle, like with Baby Boy Smith, or I want to watch him and the Barbarian destroy the Rockers. You know what I mean? Like that's what I
Yeah.
want to watch, and he's good at both.
Yeah.
And I love people that like, especially people that would be like in the '80s would try to take down like someone like the Warlord for his quote unquote work rate. And it's like, you watched fucking Killer Kowalski matches and like those. And
That shit was
again,
boring.
I'm not saying Killer Kowalski wasn't a good worker. I'm not saying Killer Kowalski for his time didn't deserve. I mean, I'm sure those people looked at him as this evil man going against Bruno. I watch it. I think it's fucking boring. So to each their own.
You got into Jay Strongbow.
Yes, to
Dude
each their own.
sucked.
Yeah. 259, Ed Atlas, 6', 236, 9 years pro, former super jock, is managed by Eddie Reality. Recently split with partner Chris Weeder, after they defeated Frankie Finnegan in a handicap match for the WWA heavyweight title. Trains for his matches by playing one rough game of table tennis each day. First of all, I know who none of these people are. I have no idea. I have no
boring, shitty names.
I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, I know nothing about any of this.
Why is he playing table tennis? How's it rough?
258 is Bushwhacker Luke, 5'10", 235, 30 years pro. He and Bushwhacker Butch have been around forever, it seems. WWF veterans are raucous, intimidating, unpredictable. Now popular, the duo was involved in some of the most gruesome barbed wire matches in the history against the Fantastics in the 1980s.
A reincarnation, I like them. All for different reasons.
And this is the time where somebody, this 95, this is the time when somebody told Vince McMahon about the word hongi. Because their music, they even added to the beginning of their music, they go, "Who do the hongi?" And then Vince would be like, "Who's doing the hongi?" And the hongi became, somebody told Vince that word and he loved it. And then it became a thing.
Was that their walk?
I mean, that's what they were saying it. Yeah, but I don't know exactly what the word, but at some point they've been to the WWF for 7 years at that point. And finally somebody said, "Yeah, they call that walk the hongi or something." And Vince was like, "Hongi.
Hongi. I like that.
Love it."
Let's make it the hongi, and we're going to give them a big stuff. We're going to give them a big kangaroo mascot. A big yellow kangaroo mascot.
Man.
But any incarnation of Luke and Butch, I'm down to watch.
Same.
Whether it's them hardcore or whether it's them being goofy, I don't care. I just enjoy them.
257 is Terry Austin, 6', 240, 4 years pro, one half of the PWF Tag Team Champions with Austin Steele, reminiscent of Tully Blanchard in style and moves, has a great slingshot suplex, can wrestle on the mat or in the air.
Good for him.
256 is Nails, 6'5", 271, 10 years pro, currently competing in the AWF, briefly known as the Convict. Huge independent brawler. Technical skills are next to nil. Had a big feud with the Big Boss Man in the WWF. Held the WWA title, but lost it to Brutus Beefcake in April of 1994. Imagine Nails
Gross.
versus Brutus Beefcake.
Gross. And Vince tried to grab his penis, and that's why he beat him up.
Boss Man. It's funny because Boss Man. I wonder sometimes if Nails had not left, if we would have got. I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know if I'm not saying El Gigante wouldn't have come to the WWF, but if Nails wouldn't have left, I don't know if we would have gotten El Gigante or Giant Gonzalez, because they were about to start that feud up with Nails and Undertaker. It even made the cover of the magazine.
Yeah, it might have not. We might have not got it at WrestleMania 9. Like, I think it was probably gonna be Nails and Undertaker there. If that time frame runs correct.
Yeah,
I think it should.
yeah, because they did the face to face. They did because Nails and Bossman have the Survivor Series match 92. They have the Nightstick match. Undertaker and Nails did the face to face on Superstars the week before Survivor Series. So going into Royal Rumble and WrestleMania season, that was the plan. I think was for those two to have a feud. So
yeah, and then Vince tried to grab his penis.
He tried to grab his Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah,
and then we got Giant Gonzalez.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to see Nails any further than his feud with the Big Boss Man anyway. I just think the guy sucked.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. He worked for that feud. You're right. He worked to have that feud with Boss Man.
If they maybe would have figured out a way to get the jumpsuit off him or whatever, maybe. But after he's done with the Boss Man, that combat character doesn't work anymore.
Boss Man, I'm not in jail anymore. I'm not your prisoner anymore. He takes the jumpsuit off. He's like, I'm just Brian.
Yeah.
He's no longer Nails. He's Brian.
I'm just Kevin. But yeah, I just said the guy. Then they even had to like alter his voice because he didn't have like an intimidating voice.
Yeah, Boss Man. 255 is Vance Nevada. We already talked about him. One half of the River City Wrestling Tag Team Champions with Robbie Royce. Young star has improved a great deal over the last year. Added confidence has enabled him to do some spectacular high-flying moves. Appeared in several Mid-Atlantic independents on a tour of America. 254 is Vladimir Koloff. 6'4", 265, 4 years pro. Frequently wrestles in the Mid-Atlantic area. Nephew of Ivan. Big, strong, with plenty of potential, former IWA heavyweight champion. That's the guy Ivan took to ECW with him, wasn't it? In the early days of ECW? Wasn't he in?
Harry? I think it was him. Because he had like some big jacked up dude that he used after Nikita.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was even a Koloff. If I remember right. Yeah, I think this was the guy that was he was kind of hairy.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like a little hairy version of like a fat hairy version of Nikita.
It's Nabisco Koloff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this isn't the dude that Koloff brought the other guy that Koloff brought into Crockett, because this guy's only been wrestling 4 years.
Yeah, this is a Smoky Mountain guy then.
Yeah. 253 is Kangaroo Denny Cass, 5'11", 239, 15 years pro. Veteran competitor, was one of the new fabulous Kangaroos with partner Al Snow. Has won several tag team titles in Motor City Wrestling and the WWA. Former BCW Can-Am champion, native of Australia.
I just remember seeing those guys in magazines and stuff. Those guys, you know what I mean? Like seeing him and Al in magazines and stuff back in the day.
252. We already talked about them. The Bushwhackers. 252 is Bushwhacker Butch. 251 is Osamu Nishimura. This Tokyo native blends scientific high-flying moves quite well. Former GWF junior heavyweight champion has wrestled for ECW, NWA, and several Florida and Michigan independents. Has one of the best drop kicks in the world. We did watch some Nishimura stuff as we were going through ECW and Reliving the Extreme. He made a couple of TV appearances.
Yeah.
But I don't really have an opinion. He was just, I don't know. To me, he was good. But the little bit we saw of him for the podcast, kind of just, I don't know, just generic Japanese guy.
No.
Speaking of ECW, 250 is 911, 6'7", 310, 2 years pro. Started out as Paul E. Dangerously's bodyguard and Sabu's training partner, PWI's 1994 Rookie of the Year. Often wrestles against several men in handicap matches. Almost always wins with his awesome choke slam, a move he once used on Santa Claus. Needs to expand his repertoire, which he will not.
He will not. He will try, but it will not work. Was funny when he chokeslammed Santa, though, and Joey was like, I didn't even know 911 was Jewish. When he was just chokeslamming people and that was his gimmick, I like 911.
And you know what?
Do other shit that you're just like, no.
Yep, him coming out and chokeslamming people was over with that crowd. Never should have tried to do anything else. Do that till it's not over anymore, and then rethink things.
Yep.
Number 249, Ron Cumberledge. Sounds like a district manager. 6'1", 235, 7 years pro. Midwest Independent Star has won titles in Western Ohio and elsewhere. Has also appeared in WCW and the WWF. Superb dropkick is one of his many great moves.
We need to make sure the stockroom is organized, guys.
Ron
Cumberledge is coming in. Like, oh, God damn it.
God damn it.
Not Cumberledge. Yep. Why'd they ever replace Steve Sylvanovitz with Ron Cumberledge? Sylvanovitz was cool, man. Like he'd take his tie off and help. Not Cumberledge.
Comes in here smell like Old Spice.
And he just comes in trying to find shit. Sylvanovitch would help. Probably why they got rid of him. Anyway.
Oh man, I gotta tell you this story, and folks, you just gonna have to bear with me. There was a certain company I worked for. Whatever. It was when I worked for GameStop. Were they gonna sue me? We had this regional manager, and his name was Tom Denuzio. Okay. And this guy, like, I don't know. I you know me, I'm Cool Hand Luke. Even asshole douchebag guys that are up on that level like me.
Yeah.
But so anyway, this Tom guy, he liked me, even though he was like that guy. He was like that fucking total asshole regional manager. Okay. So I had him, and then he was no longer my regional manager. And we had somebody else, but I got this new district manager. So the district manager then calls one day and he asked me, he said, "Did you ever have that Tom guy as your regional manager?" I was like, "Yep, sure did." He goes, "What's he like?" I'm like, "He's kind of an asshole." He's like, "Because they just realigned us today and he's going to be our new regional manager." So then like a month later, after he's after this district manager's gone around with Tom for like a month, visiting stores and stuff, or went on a tour with him or whatever, I was like, he called me at my store, and I was like, "So how did the thing go? How did your visits go with Tom? Because you guys never came here. How'd things go with Tom?" He was like, all he said was, "Man, this man." I could just hear it in his voice. Like he was just defeated. He was like, "This man."
I never get it. It's like, why do you have to be an asshole?
Yeah, I don't either. It doesn't produce anything. It doesn't motivate. It doesn't motivate anybody to do anything. I don't know. You can't motivate with fear. All you do with fear is cause turnover. That's really all you do with fear.
Like our market guy now, he's cool. We had this little guy. He was a prick. They shipped him back up to like Cincinnati or whatever, but he had like a little guy complex. But yeah, I just don't get it.
Anyway, folks, back to wrestling. Sorry. 248 Giant Baba, 7 foot 315, 34 years pro. This All Japan legend still competes on a regular basis. 3-time former NWA World Champion, among the first wrestlers of his size to excel. Famous for his big foot and judo chops. And you can say what you want about Baba, but without Ricky Dozan, Giant Baba, and Antonio Inoki, you probably don't have the Japanese wrestling scene.
Yep. And Baba was an attraction, and I'm not gonna ever sit around and be like, oh, I'm historically knowledgeable about everything about Giant Baba. I haven't seen every Giant Baba match or whatever, but I mean, for a big dude, he did what he did, and big guys like that aren't always gonna be like, like, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like when he was back in the 60s, 70s or whatever, he was very athletic, and after a while, that's not gonna happen anymore.
Yeah, especially with a guy that size.
Yeah.
Size takes its toll.
And he he did the Andre thing too. Like as soon as it started happening, he got himself into tag team matches and 6-man matches, and yeah.
247 is Star Rider, 6'2", 211. Current PWF heavyweight champion, claims to be from the Galaxy. Former PWF tag team champion, feuding with the Masked Maniac and George South. Never backs down from a challenge. Also occasionally appears in the WWF and WCW.
I don't know him.
246. Sorry, 246 is.
To say I don't know him still because he must have never did WWE or WCW. Well, he probably did WCW as Star Rider, but I don't remember him.
246 is Chris Adams, 6'1", 228, 17 years pro. A mainstay of Texas wrestling since the 1980s. Won the old World Class title 4 times and the World Class Tag Team title with Gino Hernandez. Nearly blinded in 1986 by Hernandez in one of the most heinous acts in wrestling history. Now a regular in the AWF.
I'm completely insane. Just an insane, crazy criminal human being.
Yes.
Like I said, I don't think you ever watched it, but did you ever watch that Gentleman's Choice documentary?
I still have never watched that.
You got to, man. It's like I said, it's like Tiger King of wrestling. Just insanity. It's not as long as that, obviously, but the people, it's like just this white trash community of people. And like people you don't expect to show up are on it. Like the lady wrestler that fights the model lady on Beyond the Mat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know you're talking. I don't know her name, but I know who you're talking about.
I don't remember her name either, but she shows up, like her and her like fiance or whatever are on it. It's like, what the hell? Where that lady showed up? It's crazy. And he had a crazy fucking life. And when he headbutted that pilot, then thought he was gonna the solution to try to get him off the plane without getting caught was to switch shirts with David Von Erich, Kevin Von Erich. That was their idea.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
Their big idea. Yeah, change shirts with me. What the hell? But anyway, yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, I say what you want to say about him being crazy and kind of a scumbag or whatever, but bell to bell, he was fucking awesome.
Is he? Am I incorrect? Is he the one that kind of brought into prominence the super kick?
Yeah. Over here, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I was gonna say. I think he brought it. He kind of brought the super kick into prominence in the.
Because he brought it in as like a judo move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And him and Gino were really good as a heel tag team.
Yeah.
245, the Renegade. 5'10", 256, 1-year pro. Hulk Hogan's surprise at WCW Uncensored ultimately left the fans yearning for someone else. Style is very similar to that of the Ultimate Warrior. Defeated Arn Anderson for the WCW TV title at the Great American Bash. Is often booed by fans through two of the most pathetic drop kicks in wrestling history at Bash at the Beach. I love how the PWI people are shitting on this guy. You know, and that
specifically said where he fucked up too.
Yeah. Whoever wrote this remembered that match, and they were like, "God damn it!" So here's something where this is where you make the case for the Ultimate Warrior and his charisma, because it just goes to show you can't just slap that shit on anybody. You know what I mean? Like, say what you want about the Warrior.
I know.
But
I mean, I'll agree with that, but sorry.
Yeah, Renegade, terrible pro wrestler. Terrible pro wrestler.
And I think it's funny because, like, when he was, like, beating people in, like, 10 seconds or whatever, they wanted him to beat Arn for the TV title in, like, 10 seconds, and Flair vetoed it and used his muscle or whatever and said it was at least going to go 10, and it went 10 minutes, and it was terrible, and Bischoff was like, see, we should have done it in 10 seconds, not 10 minutes, and Flair was like, we shouldn't have did it at all. Like, that shouldn't even be a thing. It still would have sucked in 10 seconds.
I love that. We should do it all.
Like that, yeah. And they, how do I want to say it? I hate sometimes when people blame other people for like a tragedy or whatever, you know? Like, I would never go on anything and say, "Oh, Eric Bischoff is the reason that Rick Wilson killed himself." You know what I mean? Because there was still that in there anyway, but it didn't help. Like, they ruined the guy's career before it even got started. Really, like, there's no coming back from that type of gimmick.
Yeah, he never should have been. He never should have been thrust on the national stage. With I think he hadn't even wrestled in 6 months. You know,
that's what I'm saying.
power
Like,
plant or whatever. Very few people can you do that with. Very few people have the ability to just be thrown out there on that. You know,
you have to have the talent of like a Kurt Angle, like the natural God-given athletic ability of like a Kurt Angle, or you have to look like Paul White.
Yeah, because that's what you said. Angle. You said Angle. I totally agree. And Paul White, totally agree. I was also going to use another example being Goldberg. You know.
Yeah.
Very, very few people. 99.9% of wrestlers should have experience somewhere that's not the grand stage before they get to the grand stage.
And Goldberg was good. I'm gonna say it like Goldberg was successful too because he got put in there at first with guys that didn't have a lot of I don't want to say I'm not saying this to like down talk anybody or whatever, but they had no misgivings of where they were at on the card.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Hugh Morris,
Rick Fuller, and all these guys, they know what their job is.
Mm-hmm.
And they know it's going to be even more detrimental to their career if they make this guy look like shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a reason the first guy that was like, you know what, I'm not going to let this guy fuck with me too much was William Regal, because William Regal was already an established star. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he didn't even make Goldberg look like shit. He was just like, I'm going to make this guy wrestle a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to make him wrestle. This isn't going to be one, and this is going to be just jackhammer and.
Yeah. But like Rick Wilson got thrown in there with like big name stars that were like, this guy's a joke.
Yeah, you put a guy like that. in the matches with the stars that have the biggest spotlights on them. And
and you think I'm gonna lose to this guy in 10 seconds? Fuck that. If I am, I'm not gonna make him look good. I'll tell you that much. So yeah, I mean, they did no favors for that guy's career.
Nope. 244 is Jungle Jim McPherson, 6 foot, 235, 8 years pro, 3-time WWA Junior Heavyweight Champion. Defeated Johnny Rotten to regain the belt in a jungle death match. Amazing vertical leap is clearly evident when McPherson launches a dropkick or executes a leapfrog.
Like Jungle Jim McPherson?
Yes.
He's like an Irish guy from the jungle.
Hi, Tarzan, you Jane.
It's top of the morning to you.
Feel like a fucking riding a tiger in or whatever. Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, chimpanzee monkey.
243 is El Bronco, 5'11", 235, 9 years pro. Still a mainstay in WWC. Teamed with Invader One to win 2 WC tag team titles. Also teamed with... usually I can pronounce the... Hold on. Yeah, slow this one down. Pulgarcito? I don't know. Masked Dominican hails from Santo Domingo. Pulgarcito. Don't know. Anyway. 242 is Eric Watts. 6'5", 262, 3 years pro. Now known as Troy of Techno Team 2000 in the WWF. Son of ex-wrestler and former WCW executive Bill Watts. Nowhere near as competitive or visible as he once was. 1992 PWI Rookie of the Year. Famed for the STF finishing hold.
He's also a guy that, like, I think sometimes there's some guys that get shit on just because of the position they were in or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he really wasn't that good.
No, he wasn't. And
people say shit sometimes about Mike Graham or whatever. Mike Graham was actually good. You know what I mean? Like, he was a good worker. And for the most part, like David Sammartino, I don't think you might laugh at me or whatever, but I don't think he was a terrible worker.
No, actually, David Sammartino, David Sammartino was fine. Like, David Sammartino was fine. He was a good wrestler. David Sammartino was literally the epitome of having to live up to that name of his father, just like David Flair, Yeah. Like, you're never going to live up to your old man. It's just not. He's Bruno fucking Sammartino. David Sammartino should have wrestled as somebody else. Anyway. But yeah, Eric Watts is in the same category as fucking Angelo Mosca Jr. to me.
And everything about him sucked too. Like, it wasn't even just like, oh, you're a bad wrestler, but you got some charisma, kid. It's like your charisma sucked too. I don't like him.
Yeah, I got no time for Eric Watts.
Yeah.
241 is Scott D'Amore, 6 foot, 265, 4 years pro. Youngster calls Border City Wrestling his home. Became 4-time BCW champion by defeating Bruiser Bedlam this year. Defended title successfully against Al Snow, Steve Lombardi, and Mickey Doyle. Occasionally competes in WCW.
Good mind for the business. I don't mind. I think he's a entertaining manager.
He was also one of. I am not, as everybody knows, I am not like an avid student of TNA/Impact. But Scott D'Amore was part of one of my probably 3 or 4 favorite things in the history of that company, which was the whole Team Canada thing.
A lot of the funny ideas or cool ideas and everything that came out of that company at that time came from him. Like, he came up with the Team Canada and the whole the Dudley Boys funeral, Alex Shelley and Kevin Nash doing the paparazzi stuff,
Yeah.
Like, that was all him, like, helping come up with those ideas, and he was a creative dude. And that little resurgence that TNA had, where they went back to being TNA and whatever, and got them noticed by WWF or WWE again and everything, that was Scott.
Yeah.
And they I guess everything I heard, they didn't want to give him a raise, and they didn't think they wanted to put any more money than they were into the company. And he was like, well, if you're not going to put any more money into this,
I'm out.
I need to go somewhere else and do my own thing then.
And then hasn't he started up Maple Leaf Wrestling again or something?
Yeah. Maple Leaf Championship Wrestling.
I thought
And
about checking it out, but I haven't looked to see if they have like a YouTube channel or anything yet.
they don't have a YouTube channel yet. They did a thing on that Thrilla TV. They did like a 2-night like pay-per-view thing. It's not that expensive. But yeah, I mean, it's so like he just kind of did that as kind of like a hey, this is what it's gonna look like type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then from what I understand, he was just at the performance center. I don't know if that means anything, but he was just there. I could see them using him as one of those
The ID thing.
the ID promotions, yeah. But yeah, he's a really creative guy and he's funny, and I got nothing bad to say about Scott D'Amore.
Same. Number 240 is Tommy Rogers, 5'9", 222, 15 years pro, reunited with Bobby Fulton as the Fantastics at several WCW TV tapings, wrestles periodically for All Japan. He and Fulton won many regional tag team titles in their years together.
Badass.
Yeah, Tommy Rogers is what a fucking wrestler. I don't know.
Like here there was when hell I was gonna say in his prime, but up like his entire life when if he was wrestling, he was one of the best wrestlers on the planet. And there's stuff to be said too that there's matches I think sometimes that are like sometimes I think how do I say it, like the Fantastics Rocket or the Fantastics Midnight Express matches I think are somewhat better than the Rock and Roll Express Midnight Express matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean the I guess the reason
they're a little grittier and
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean to be honest, yeah, I'll agree with you. And I think the only reason that and I'm not saying that the Fantastics didn't have charisma, but the Rock and Roll Express had that charisma. You know what I mean? That step, that level above. So I think the only reason that people remember Midnight's Rock and Roll more than Midnight's Fantastics is because Midnight's and Rock and Roll were on the same level, charisma wise, like Cornette and Ricky Morton. You know. But no, I agree with you. I'd say if you were just going to blindly watch a match without any pretext, without knowing the story or knowing the charismas involved, absolutely the Fantastics probably had better matches with the Midnights than the Rock and Roll did.
And it's like Tommy, a lot of people like I don't want to say stole shit because everybody borrows stuff in wrestling, but there's stuff that he did that other guys took and did bigger things with, and I think he was the main thing I think went against him was he was short.
Yeah,
he was just a shorter guy, and just the way it was.
Number 239 is another great worker, Steve Lombardi. WWF veteran, also appears on independent cards. Brooklyn Brawler works hard but can't seem to escape prelim status. Once managed briefly by Bobby the Brain Heenan. Many years in the WWF for Steve Lombardi.
Yeah, and it's funny because like when he went away, everybody's like, "Wow, that's crazy!" Like he's been there forever. Like I wonder if he got away before he could be even lumped in with any of the shenanigans. You know
Probably,
what I mean?
Probably.
Like I'll just go ahead and bounce. Let's sign this like NDA and
yeah, because he was definitely close enough to everything to know where the bodies are buried, if that makes any sense.
and know what was going on and who was actually doing what. And I think he probably maybe I don't want to speculate, but I
Right.
think maybe he also seemed like a nice guy. That maybe somebody
Mhm.
was like, "Hey, maybe you should retire.
Maybe you should distance yourself from this pretty
Like,
quick.
just retire before any of this stuff comes out." You know what I mean?
um, and none of it's going to matter, by the way, because after January 20th, Trump's just going to pardon Vince of all his sins anyway. I'm not going to get political, but I guarantee that's going to happen. 238, Brad Armstrong. 6 foot
Oh yeah.
226, 14 years pro, oldest but most talented of the Wrestling Armstrong brothers, was WCW's final light heavyweight champion. Current SMW champion, has often helped family and feud with Jim Cornette. Quicker than he appears to be and still in great shape.
Badass. He was who Jim Cornette wanted instead of Brian Lee to be the first Smoky Mountain Wrestling champion,
Mm-hmm.
but couldn't get him. And um, I know, like, he didn't have the charisma on camera or whatever, but he bell to bell, he's just one of the best ever.
Yep, absolutely agree. Um, he was, I want to say, like we were talking about with Bob, like giving something to each of his sons. The bell to bell work rate definitely was 100% given to Brad.
Oh.
237. Nobody said life was going to be easy. It's Kevin Sullivan. 5'10, 252, 24 years pro. Off the deep end once again as the guiding force behind the Three Faces of Fear and now the Dungeon of Doom. Vows to rid wrestling of Hulk Hogan. Had a hard time beating his bumbling brother Dave. Brutal and demented. And I just want to say, for those of you that are lovers of all things ridiculous in professional wrestling, the WWE Vault YouTube page has a video that is in the entire compilation of all of the Dungeon of Doom videos, like the inside the Dungeon of Doom
Yeah.
videos. The ridiculousness of professional wrestling at its height.
And like I've always said, if they wouldn't have taken it to like this other realm and they would have made it kind of like how he had his like cavalcade of freaks or
In
whatever, it might
Florida,
have
yeah.
not been as bad.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take him into
I
like
mean, yeah,
iceberg,
when you think about it, you have Kevin Sullivan, King Curtis, Kamala, Meng, fucking the giant
John Tenta.
John Tenta. Probably the only turd in the punch bowl is Beefcake. Like overall, the fucking Dungeon of Doom is a group. Kamala for a brief moment, a group of talented men
Yeah.
just doing
It's,
the essentially uh, performing for an audience of one, which is Hulk Hogan.
yeah, like I said, if they would have taken it out of the Ice Palace and all that shit, it probably would have been. Not saying it would have been like the greatest group of all time, but it would have been
Right,
more tolerable.
right. There's no Hulkamaniacs here.
Hulkamaniacs in the arena either, Hogan. At this point.
Number 236, Ricky Santana, 5'10", 235, 13 years pro, now competing in the WWC in Japan as Iceman, one of the Caribbean's best. Tag team champion partners with WWC have included Curtis Thompson, Al Madrill, and Ray Gonzalez. Used to wrestle in the Pacific Northwest, sometimes a rule breaker, sometimes a fan favorite.
All right.
Yeah, Ricky Santana was fine, He was fine. Like nothing to write home about, but I would never say he was shitty or anything, but
Yeah.
Number 235, Mantar, 6'1", 401. The half man, half beast hails from the Isle of Crete, managed by Jim Cornette and the WWF, going nowhere fast at the mid-card level, brawler with very little technical skill.
Just I don't like him as Mantar. I don't like him as anything really. The guy I don't know.
Best thing that ever came from Mantar was Scott Hall telling the story about the big head, like, like talking about how they didn't think through how the fucking guy was going to get in the ring with that
Yeah,
big fucking head on.
yeah, he sucked. And then what was he? What was he? Wasn't he Tank too? Wasn't he like part of the Truth Commission for a
Yeah, he was
minute?
part of the Truth Commission in the USWA. I don't think he ever actually made WWF TV. He was featured in a video that they showed of him of the Truth Commission, but I don't think he ever actually made a match on TV. And then he was also
Gold Dust Butler for a night.
yeah, Gold Dust bodyguard for a night. And wasn't he Hunter's bodyguard for a minute too?
Possibly.
But right before, or no, Mr. Hughes was with Hunter,
Oh yeah,
right?
it was
Yeah,
Curtis Hughes. Yeah,
yeah.
Curtis Hughes, and then Curtis Hughes went away, and China showed up.
Mm-hmm. Curtis Hughes just fell asleep.
Yeah, he fell asleep, and they forgot about him.
And
Like, I
then
wonder if he's ever woke. I wonder if he's ever woke up in the arena while Iron Mike Sharp was still showering. Like the only guys there.
234 is Gran Hamada, 5'4", 195, 24 years pro, among the finest wrestlers weighing less than 200 pounds in the world. Tokyo native has held many titles all over the world. Once a fixture in the UWA, but now wrestles almost exclusively in Japan. Still has a great speed and agility. Everything I've ever seen of Gran Hamada, I have seen some matches. He was really fucking good. But I can't say in any way, shape, or form I'm an expert on his career, but he was really good from the little I've seen. 233 is really good. One of the best big men wrestlers of all time, the Barbarian. 6'5", 295, 15 years pro, competing frequently on the independent circuit. Resurfaced in the WWF last year as Sione, the new member of the Head Shrinkers. Brutal giant, once managed by Bobby Heenan. Formerly one half of the Powers of Pain with Warlord. Better off in tag teams. I talked about how much I love the Powers of Pain. Love the Barbarian. Any incarnation, any tag team he was in. Fucking awesome.
And like you said, one of the best big men, and I think he's an overlooked guy, you know.
Yeah.
And he, I mean, I'm not even like, how do I say, like they say, better in tag teams or whatever. That could be said, but I don't think that necessarily is always the case. But I mean, him and Mang are one of my favorite things ever in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Faces of Fear were fucking tastic, and
Absolutely.
like
He has one of the funniest first names of a wrestler ever. Like his first wrestling name. Do you remember what it was? When he started out like I think he started out I want to say it was like world class. But it was his first wrestling name was Tonga John.
Tonga John.
Tonga
Yeah.
John.
Like, this is stupid. I need to change this quick. But like, I love just watching him just backdrop lunge a guy into Mang and be like, catch him, and then like Mang just catches him or whatever and power bombs the guy. It's like one of the craziest fucking moves in the world.
And like I said earlier about Warlord, with him and Warlord as a kid watching the Powers of Pain, not only were they impressive, not only were they strong, they were fucking scary looking and just intimidating. And yeah, the only thing that I say is and I know that Demolition was super over and that it gave them that long reign as champions and blah blah blah. But back then and even now, I wish the Powers of Pain would have got a little run as the tag champions.
Yeah.
232 is Eddie Golden.
I'm just saying they kind of got hosed over in the fact that they were there and the Demolition was there and then the fucking roadies show up and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
232 is Eddie Golden, 5'11", 225, 7 years pro, is the nephew of Jimmy Golden. He and partner Stan Lee are two-time former tag team champions in several promotions. Very intelligent and extremely strong for his size. Among the best light heavyweights in the Southern independent scene.
Like his uncle.
231 is Firefighter Adrian, 5'9", 230. Current West Coast Championship Wrestling mid-heavyweight champion, has a strong upper body and excellent speed. Native of Philadelphia. I don't know who this is, but I know no matter who he is, 231 is too high.
I'm assuming he's probably doing like a sexy fireman gimmick. It would be my assumption. Not saying I think firemen are sexy. I'm just saying I'm assuming he's coming out to like when his music hits, it's like it's like fire. Like he comes out or whatever. He's got his hose, swinging his hose around.
Oh, not those hose.
Not those hose. No, yeah, he's coming out to that fire song and
230. Tony Atlas, 6'2", 247, 18 years pro, wrestles in New England and up and down the Eastern Seaboard. Former Mr. USA is a two-time IWCCW champion. Size and strength are unquestioned, often accused of evading top competition. Managed by Tony Rumble in Century Wrestling Alliance.
And even in his older age, one of the biggest men I've ever been next to in my entire life.
Tried to grab my pecker.
He tried to grab my pickle.
That guy was like, "What'd you say?" Tried to grab my pecker.
Grab my pickle. like he didn't like change it or anything. He's like, try to grab my pickle. Like, what do you think I said?
Did I stutter?
I stutter, motherfucker. Grab my pickle. The best thing about that documentary. Him and Bret Hart are the best things about that documentary.
I agree.
But he never did it in WWE that I know of. But like, I liked Tony Atlas as like a heel.
Oh,
when you were like,
he is absolutely his heel. Him as a heel is the best thing about IWCCW, hands down. With the long black pants and his long reign as the champion. Yeah. And yeah, Tony was a really good heel. He was a really good face too. And
oh yeah, but like I even liked when he was hanging out with like Barbarian and Cactus Jack and WCW. You know what I mean? Like I like that shit too. But yeah,
we won't go into the whole story. We won't go into the whole segment because we've discussed it numerous times in this show. But we can't mention Tony Atlas without saying one word: nincompoop.
Nincompoop.
Love it. 229. This is a guy that. Okay, so I have lots of trading cards. Okay, I have a huge collection. Part of my collection with my magazines and stuff. I have all kinds of trading cards: WWF, WCW, TNA, whatever. This guy had a WCW trading card. I saw the trading card and don't ever remember him wrestling on TV. Frank Anderson, 6'2", 245, 2 years pro, three-time former Greco-Roman world champion in the 1984 Olympic bronze medalist for native Sweden, appears to have adapted to the pro style well. Was briefly in WCW, but now competing mostly in Europe. Excellent technical background, shows in pro matches. I've never seen this guy on anything I've ever watched of WCW. I actually didn't even realize he was in WCW until I saw his trading card. So
no idea who he is.
So I don't know if they made a trading card for him because they were gonna give him a push. You know what I mean?
I'm sure he probably was the power plant guy, and they were gonna do something with him. And I just realized, like, he's not very good.
228, Glenn Osborne, 6'2", 265, 6 years pro, tough competitor, is a former WWWA Intercontinental Champion, one half of the Natural Born Killers in the NWA. Bad man from the Badlands, gets more respect from his opponents than he does from the fans in the East Coast Independents.
Like a giant baby. Yeah, like a big baby head. I didn't like him.
He's one of those guys that like, okay, so he just uses his name, right? Glenn Osborne, but then he paints his face. Like,
Yeah.
you look like
The
you're
bad
supposed
man from the Badlands, Glenn.
you look like you're supposed to have a gimmick like that has some kind of a name, you know, like something warrior or something, and nope, just Glenn Osborne.
Man from the Badlands. Shut up, Glenn.
227 Diamond Tim Flowers. 6 foot 243, current international champion of the West Coast Championship Wrestling. Body is scarred from his many cage match wars. Has also competed in the UWA. I don't know ya. 226 is a guy. 226 is a guy we all know and love. Nikolai Volkov, 6'7", 280, 27 years pro. Left the WWF after serving as Ted DiBiase's lackey for a few months. Now wrestles in several independents through the U.S. Solid fundamental wrestler. Held the WWF tag title with the Iron Sheik. So yeah, he's just ended his run with the corporation where he had the penny signs on his tights and
Yeah. He's also my favorite thing out of the wrestling album. It's him singing Cara Mia. It's like, this is fantastic.
The one suit gimmick. He owns one suit. What's great about that is like they talked about how he owned the one suit, and when he did the shit, the "This Is Your Life" thing in the WWF in '84, and then in '94 he still has the one suit.
Yeah, his sister comes in and she's like, and he left us and took all our money and just bought this terrible suit. Added on this terrible suit.
And just want to give a shout out really quick. You know what? One of my favorite. Everybody else in the world might say it's stupid. They don't care. They don't like it. Whatever. You know what? One of my favorite segments in the history of wrestling is, and to the point where I have it memorized, is the Bolsheviks and Steve Allen at WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
Perestroika and Glasnost, we love you the utmost. And how is your sister tonight?
That's the Polish national anthem.
And he had
That's the Polish national anthem.
I get no kicks from Ukraine. That segment's fucking funny. I don't care. And then he's like, and let's hear the Russian national anthem. And then the toilet flushes. I don't know. Whatever. It's one of my favorite little fucking segments in wrestling history.
Yeah?
It's the Polish national anthem.
The Polish national anthem.
Oh, shit.
Well, he was also a guy that, not talking about Nikolai, but talking about Steve, he was in wrestling too.
Yeah.
Like, he had connections with it, kind of like Regis Philbin did or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he got it.
Yeah, like, I think if I remember right, he even did like some wrestling commentating for like whatever station he was working for in LA or whatever. So yeah, he respected it.
All right, 225 is Mike Samples, 6'2", 252, 4 years pro, successful in the independent scene, built like a construction worker. Calculating mind, wrestled in USWA under the management of Burt Prentice. Also refereed there for a while. 224 is Octagon, 5'7", 190, 6 years pro, a native of Mexico City. He is a former lawyer whose love of wrestling led him to the current profession. Combines a high-flying style with martial arts moves. One of the most popular wrestlers in Mexico. His nickname is Idol of the Children. Likeness of his mask sells very well.
I just think it's funny, like Mexican wrestling could be like, we don't know who this guy is, but we know he was a lawyer.
223, Killer Kyle, 6'2", 292, 7 years pro. Mysterious Man in Black is involved in an ongoing feud with Boo Bradley in Smoky Mountain. was managed by Jim Cornette and served as his bodyguard for a time, still needs to improve his overall skills.
Yeah. Bob Cott was like, this dude's weird, man. Like, he didn't like anything about that. He's like, this guy creeps me out. Weird, man. This dude is weird. And it was the subtle thing, and I don't know if people got it, but they did a thing where he was feuding with Dixie Dynamite, which was Scott Armstrong, you know?
Yeah.
And they did a match where if Dixie Dynamite won, he got the guitar case or the violin case, and they could find out what was in it, you know?
Yeah.
And Dixie Dynamite wins, and then he opens up the violin case, and it's got tape in it, like duct tape. And then he attacks Dixie Dynamite, beats the shit out of him, duct tapes him to the ropes, and like beats him with the violin case, and like kicks the shit out of him and leaves.
So it's like he set him up.
Well, yeah, like my thing is like what's funny about him is his character did what anybody would do. Be like, I could possibly lose this match, so why would I take what I actually put in the violin case with me?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's like, fuck it. If I lose, he'll open it and be like, tape, and then I'll kick the shit out of him. Like, he actually took what was actually in and out. Like, I just thought that was. I don't think like people got the. I don't know if that's what Jim Cornette was going for.
No, it totally is.
That's what I took from it. He's like, why would I be dumb and put my weapon in here?
Right. 222 is Paul Roma, 5'11", 235, 9 years pro, left WCW and is now competing in several New York independents. Teamed with Paul Orndorff and rule-breaking Pretty Wonderful tag team. Former WWF tag team competitor, is also a Four Horsemen alumnus. Has professional boxing experience. If you watch wrestling chronologically like I do, because I'm a fucking nerd like that, I watch things chronologically. Paul Roma had a long run in the WWF. Like, a long run in the WWF.
Oh, yeah, he went from. It was probably 10 years, wasn't it?
He maybe not. Okay, so he first shows up, I think, right around or maybe just after WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania, and then
All right, so 9 years.
Yeah, because he does prelims, then he winds up. They tagged him up with Lanny Poffo for a minute, then he went back into singles. Then they tagged him up with obviously with Jim Powers, and then they tagged him up with Hercules. But yeah, he had a really he even had a tag team with SD Jones for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roma was in the WWF for a long time, and like I will say this. Do I think that Paul Roma probably didn't deserve to be in the Four Horsemen? Absolutely. But Paul Roma was a good worker. I've never seen anything that Paul Roma did in the ring where I was like, well, that sucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in tag teams, like he was, I will say he was a tag team wrestler. I'm not a big fan of him as a singles wrestler, but he was a good tag team wrestler. So I don't have anything bad to say about him. I do think that it was a bad idea to put him in the Horsemen. That might not have been the best thing to do. He wasn't necessarily
It was not the best thing to do.
And
it was never going to work because none of those guys won in a minute anyway. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But no, I'd never shit on him. I like Paul Roma.
Me too.
And Power and Glory is another team, much like the Powers of Pain, that for a time I think they should have got a little run with the titles. Maybe beat the Hart Foundation or something for a minute.
Yeah, I liked him and Paul Orndorff.
Yeah, they were good too.
All right, what do you think? One more?
Yeah, we'll do one more here. 221, round it out with Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman. 6'2", 270, 1-year pro, former Marine, defeated Bryant Anderson in his pro debut on February 5th, 1994. Excellent amateur wrestler. He holds 17 all-military titles and 2 national titles. Code Red, shoulder arm, submission hold is well respected. Any opinion on Craig Pittman?
I just thought he was boring.
Yeah, I liked it when he was trying to recruit Bobby Heenan as his manager.
Yeah. Yeah, just in general, I just think he was boring. Like, I think that gimmick, unless it's Sergeant Slaughter, is always boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like the ex-Marine military it's like, this is boring.
Yeah, that gimmick lends itself. Let's just say this: that gimmick, other than like you said, Slaughter is an exception. Slaughter was exceptional at it because of his personality and his, he could be face, he could be heel. But that gimmick, that kind of a gimmick, actually, and this isn't even being insulting, that gimmick lends itself to a local independent wrestling promotion.
Yep.
That gimmick lends itself to a guy that's going to be right there. There's going to be 100 people in the arena, and he's a local guy, and he's a veteran. And again, I'm not saying anything bad about it, but what I'm saying makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is our local veteran, and he's wrestling, and he's going to beat the evil Russian or what the fuck ever. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But you're right. On the national stage, yeah, it's boring. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode, because you all got to, I want everybody to give Aaron some props because he did this show under the weather. We appreciate it, brother.
No problem.
And want to encourage everybody, like I said at the beginning of the show, even if you don't listen to your podcasts on YouTube, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just get us some more subscribers. Let your friends know about the shows. Let your friends know about the YouTube page. And of course, thank you for your support. You can send us emails at wecan'twrestle@gmail.com if you ever want to have any questions, comments, or concerns, or contact any of us on the Facebook group, the Facebook page as well. If you send a message, we will respond. That being said, We're going to sign off. We'll see everybody next week. We'll start off next week at 220. We're more than halfway through this 500. And we will continue next week right here on the We Can't Wrestle podcast.
Thanks, guys.